Hi, my name is Joe Jackson. I'm a journalist, author, interviewer, and broadcaster. More recently, I've become a podcaster, and a few podcasts I've already posted based on 3 separate interviews I did with Tom Jones have turned out to be hugely popular, in particular with fans of the man. This delights me, because I myself have been a fan of Tom ever since I was a child and bought the single Once Upon a Time. And that single sure is a long way back in time from his latest album and arguably his most authentic and honest, Surrounded by Time, a personal testimony of the man looking back at the age of 80. So by way of marking the release of the album, I'm going to do a trilogy of podcasts based on an interview we did in Dublin in 1991 on the morning after a concert Tom gave at the Point Depot. At the time, his latest album was called Carrying a Torch, and it featured 4 songs written by Van Morrison. The second of these 3 podcasts will focus on Tom's memories of working with Van and his comments on those 4 songs, and that podcast will end where the third will pick up with a discussion of Tom's love life. Incidentally, Tom Jones remains one of my favourite interviewees from among roughly 1,400 because he never flinched from any question I asked. As you'll hear from the final part of the third interview, when I say vis-a-vis a certain subject, "Unless you're telling me the truth, Tom, about this, don't tell me anything," and he chose silence. Then he laughed. But let's kick off this podcast by focusing on the subject we discussed to kick off that same interview, namely the talismanic aspect of knickers being thrown at him during gigs. Yeah, you heard that right. But don't accuse me of pretentiousness. It's a phrase I picked up from watching a recent BBC television documentary on the life of Tom Jones. By the way, if you want to access the full tapes for personal or professional use, say in a documentary, contact me via my website, joejacksoninterviewer.com. But enjoy the podcast.
Okay. Now, what I did avoid last time, because I love avoiding cliches, is I didn't ask you about knickers, all right?
Yeah.
But after seeing somebody talk about the talismanic rather than the take these and I wish I was in them, Tom, I have to ask you, what do you think of the talismanic dimensions to knickers? Did you see that in the Omnibus show?
The talismanic dimension.
Yeah. Did you not see that? Where there was this talking head. He sounded like a psychologist.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, I do, yeah. Yeah, he said there was something to do with...
witchcraft.
Yeah.
It harked back to the days when we all were...
Yeah, and the perspiration with the...
smell of odour, that this brought us all...
Aphrodisiac.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then Jonathan Ross said it's a load of bollocks.
Would that be your reading of the same thing?
Well,
or do you think maybe?
I think there's with the sweat and all that
Right.
business. I mean, there is a sex.
Right.
It is involved in it.
Right.
You know, I mean, that is.
Yeah.
It's not just people throwing,
But they're throwing them saying, "Here, and I wish I was in them."
Yeah.
I mean, that's the base. That's what I would have read it.
Exactly.
But he's trying to say that it's part of our animal nature and going back to the time when we all were more primal and beastly. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's reading too deep.
Pushing
into
it. Yeah. So do I.
But there is a connection. There is a sex.
Sure.
Connection
yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I mean, why don't they just throw their hankies?
Exactly. Why knickers? I mean, why?
Do you ever get sick of it though? There was a moment last night when you were introducing the Van songs.
Yeah.
And somebody threw up one and I just said wrong time.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
See, that's the problem with it. You can't control it properly.
Right.
It's all right when it's done, with a bit of fun and with a bit of, you know what I mean, and have a giggle with it and treat it as such. But when you get to a serious part of the show, when you're trying to say, "No, look, this is what I've just recorded with," and then somebody
knocks the thing kind of sideways. Well, I think what happened last night was you were actually given a serious introduction. The knickers comes up, everybody laughs.
Yeah.
So you have to do a backtrack.
That's right.
Now I've got to get them again.
Yeah.
You know
and
what I mean?
You can't get nasty with it. You can't say,
I know.
Hey, this is not the time to throw draws. I'm trying to be serious here.
Right.
You can't do that.
So you don't have somebody in the background with one of those cards they have on TV shows.
Exactly. I mean, that would be the way to do it. But we try with the security part of it. That's what we try to do to get, not to let them come up and stay in the front and have them throwing
all the time.
In parts. Between songs are okay and stuff like that. But try and get in its right perspective or as close to it as you can.
So selective knickers throwing in future would be much appreciated.
Exactly. That's it.
Okay, so this business of shifting the image 3 feet upwards in the body, I mean, is there an element at which that's not a bit pointless? Because a lot of women would say, I don't give a damn, the sex appeal is his voice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The whole unit of Tom Jones.
That's
I don't
right.
look down at his balls and say, that's what I want.
Yeah.
You hear the voice, the energy, the passion.
It's part of it.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the thing, I think my son, because my son made the comment, Mark made the comment, that, he wanted to zero in more on the voice. Because it is, I agree, the whole thing is what it is.
Yeah.
But what is making it is the voice, first of all, and then the rest of it, is to drive it home.
Yeah.
But it got lost there sometimes in reviews. They wouldn't mention the voice.
Right.
They only mentioned what I was dressed like. The shirt was open. This was, that, and he was sweating, and women were throwing underwear. And
the singing and the song
were completely missed.
Yeah.
So that's with Mark saying he wanted to come to is maybe a bit drastic.
That's like cutting Elvis out of the waist.
Yeah. It's a bit drastic, but it's
the point is,
and Elvis went through the same kind of thing.
Well, what he deliberately, I think I always felt around the satellite show, he stopped moving and he said, I'm not going to do it. You either listen to the next hour and a half of songs.
Right.
I'll do a little jig along the way.
Yeah.
I mean, do you deliberately say at times, well, to hell with that, I'm not getting into as much of that as I used to?
Well, only if see, for me, it's well, if I do an exaggerated move, it's a tongue-in-cheek thing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I didn't do it last night on purpose, because I read a review from the in London from the Wembley concert.
All right.
And it said, the show was great. He went on about the vocal power and everything, and it's pure rock, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
And he said the only part that he didn't like about it was the love, and he stretched the word, and the slow grinding.
Right.
He says, which slowed it down. You know what I mean? Which took away
the pace.
Yeah, from what he thought of.
Right.
And I thought, well, he's missing the point, because when I do it, it's a sort of like in What's New Pussycat, for instance.
Oh yeah.
I do the.
Well, that's pantomime.
Exactly. It's pantomime, and that's what it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, if he thinks I'm trying to be sexy by doing it, it's not. It's a tongue-in-cheek thing.
Yeah. No, my girlfriend was with me, and she said he's sexy when he doesn't try to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? When it's
right. So if it's getting missed, if the point is not coming, then I stopped it. So I didn't do it last night.
Right.
When I did What's New Pussycat, I didn't do the big round,
I know,
because I thought it's being misconstrued. And Mark said this is what he's been listening, because he sits out there, he gets into the audience, and he listens to what people are saying, And he said, and he can understand what the writer meant.
You pay attention to, obviously, then the critical reviews. I saw there was some reviews of late who say that you still sing a song as if you're ravaging every woman in the audience. You know what I mean? That is, if you're going out to kind of you gotta seduce every woman there.
Yeah. Well, it's not only women though. It's men as well. I mean, everybody in that audience. I tried to smother them with
power.
With power. Yes, with my vocal and my whole being. So it's like, it's like if you want to just grab them and.
Well, what are you like? I know Jolson was, and I know he's an original hero. Are you addicted to that kind of cheer, applause, response, love in any form from the audience?
Yes.
Why?
It's when you're doing what you love to do, what you feel is real, and it gets the respect you want to. There's a feeling that's coming out of you. You think, I hope that that it's getting across, and when it does, you think, oh shit, that's it. They know what I'm doing. It's there. You've connected. You've communicated.
Is it ego? Is it a sexual charge? Is it a life-affirming charge? Is it all those things?
All those things.
Yeah.
It's not so much. I don't know whether it's ego or not, but it's flattering. When you get adulation, especially from the opposite sex, it's flattering.
Yeah.
But it's not. I mean, it doesn't affect me. I mean, I would hate to be called an egotistical bastard. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, maybe ego's not an unhealthy word. I think it just has unhealthy associations. But I think ego is just your self-image. That's what it started out as.
Right.
Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
But people do tend to think ego means somebody
it's nasty.
out there pushing it over.
Yeah, they get it bastard.
Well, there was a thing then, there was a show, because you don't, I wouldn't think of you singing to seduce every woman, right? But there was an element in the show where I think it was Stuart Morris talking about Chris's netting women if you saw them in the audience, that you were singing it to seduce some women. You know what I mean? Is that on your mind too?
It's
or was it? Whatever.
It doesn't have to be me physically seducing them.
Right.
It's to get them to feel that way, to get men and women.
Right.
You know, in the audience, to get, if it's a sexy song, I want them to feel sexy.
Right.
I want them to feel it. I want them to feel.
Pump up the tires.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, and I want them all to go out and say, fucking hell, you know.
Right.
What a fucking show that was, and grab hold of the missus or the girlfriend, and you know, and
continue.
And you know, and get going on it.
But is it that then? And it's not just I'm a man that wants every one of those to disarm, every woman to ignore me, every woman to long for me, and every man to long to be me.
No, not exactly.
Right.
No.
Right.
It's to push my point across and to have them feel that that's.
Something real.
Exactly the way it should be.
Yeah.
The sexiness of it is like, oh, fucking, you know, to make them feel sexy, but not, and not for them to say, oh, you know, what is that? That is not sexy. You know, that's not sexy.
Yeah.
That's not.
The church will never let you back into this country again. You know what
I mean? You know, that's what it is. It's.
Okay. No, right. Well, I just wanted to get that clear because I think you are too often wrongly projected in that.
Hi, Joe Jackson here again. I thank you for listening to this edition of the Joe Jackson Interviews podcast. And don't forget, if you want to access the full tapes of that interview and many others, you can contact me via my website, joejacksoninterviewer.com.